Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with jazz pianist Franck Amsallem. We talked to him back on June 13, 2020 during the COVID-19 world and about quite a bit. He is an acclaimed international jazz pianist, playing, recording, and composing for over 40 years. He is an in-demand cat, being a composer and arranger, singer, and educator, and over the years, he's recorded 10-plus CDs under his name and had major collaborations along the way. Get to know him and dig this interview. Where exactly are you located in the world?
I live in Paris.
Okay.
I lived in New York for quite a long time. I went to school at Berkeley College, 81, and then I lived full-time in America till 2001. And then I kept an apartment in New York till 2010.
I guess were you there on 9/11?
I was packing. And I left exactly as planned 10 days later.
Well, and I guess I think about the coronavirus and what's going on. That's been like the latest kind of thing that's close to 9/11 for what we've seen and gone through. So talk to me a little bit about when the coronavirus started happening. I guess first and foremost, how's everything going in Paris with this? Are you guys opening up? Or things getting better?
It's deconfinement is happening. Pretty much most businesses are open, but restaurants are not yet open inside. They can only have a terrace. And it also means that the clubs have not reopened.
Yeah.
And my first scheduled gig is beginning of August.
Okay.
If everything is still going as planned.
Yeah. Well, I guess my question to you is kind of what was your personal story of finding out that you were losing gigs, say, around early March, and kind of how you realized that live music was going away?
Well, it was pretty sudden. Until the end of February, we were still hopeful that we would not be touched by it. And then all of a sudden, beginning of March, the government announced that the strict confinement would happen. And I remember that I lost 2 gigs on March 14, a concert outside of Paris, followed by a club in Paris. And since then, nothing happens. Not even teaching and private lessons. Private lessons are starting now again for the past 2 weeks.
Talk to me a little bit about what you've been doing creatively during this time to kind of keep your creative juices going.
Well, I was in the middle of promoting my last CD, which came out in end of September. So we came back from a few gigs in Switzerland and in France in the middle of February. And we were planning to play gigs, quite a few gigs in March and April, May, June. Altogether I lost almost 20 gigs.
Wow.
Yeah. So including, a lot of gigs that were meant to promote the record. So it's been pretty bad. It turned out that I had bought my long dream of a Steinway piano. So I have basically a fantastic piano now at home, which I had a pretty good one before, but this one is absolutely amazing. So I've been playing the piano quite a bit. So I've been having a steady diet of practicing, basically, and a little bit of composing here and there.
So talk to me a little bit about your childhood, where you were born and raised and kind of how jazz became your life.
So that's kind of a convoluted story. I was born in North Africa, in Algeria, and it was the end of the Civil War, the Independence War. And my parents had to move with the whole big family just like a million other Frenchmen, in July '62. And they moved and went to Nice, France, which is right across the pond, the Mediterranean. And I grew up there in quite a large family, and my parents, it was a big adjustment for them. And my father was able to move all his furniture, including the piano that he bought for his large family. So we all had piano lessons, more or less, and I'm the one who liked it the most, I guess. And I had some pretty bad, pretty inefficient piano lessons till I turned 14, and I realized that I really liked jazz and blues. I really like blues, especially, and so I went to the conservatory in Nice, public conservatory, which is basically a free music school, and I was enrolled there as a saxophone major for several years, while I played with the jazz band, the big band that they had. And basically that was it. I started getting my name around, started playing quite a few gigs. First it was local pop music, and then it was jazz. And then 18 or 19, I won a scholarship to go to Berkeley. And I left Nice and moved to Boston. It was in 81.
Did you always have a dream of coming to America to play jazz?
Pretty much, since I was about 15 or 16. I had that dream of at least going there to study. At first it was just to study.
So...
And it was great. I won the scholarship contest, and I was a full scholarship student at Berkeley.
One of the big, I guess, dreams probably for any jazz musician is when you actually finally get to New York, which is the Mecca, and you get to play. What was your first or early gigs like when you did get to play in New York?
When I was at Berkeley, I played with quite a few good musicians, and they all encouraged me to move to New York. And I just got there, and I started playing almost immediately. It was mid-'80s, in 85. Had tons of gigs, and it was not the greatest musical gigs, maybe sometimes, but some of them were actually right away quite good. And I loved it. I loved the way people apprehended the rhythm and tradition, melody over in New York, very different than Boston. And I just loved it. So for me to get my papers to stay in America, I enrolled and did a master's in jazz composition at Manhattan School of Music. And then I just stayed.
Over your career, you've had 10 plus CDs. You've been with a lot of really big names. Charles Lloyd, Jerry Bergonzi, Maria Schneider, Bobby Watson. There's all kinds of people that you've been around. What kind of memories from live shows are you thinking about now that you're not playing? Are there really good magic moments that you think about?
Oh, yeah. I had fantastic moments with mostly even better moments with my own groups than with other people's group. But I had fantastic moments on stage with Joe Chambers, for example. Joe Chambers had put together quintet and sextets, and we did a big tour in Europe, and we also played quite a bit in New York at a club that was called Visiones in the mid-90s. And it was just fantastic to be with and to hear Joe play every night. Such a sensitive musician and great drummer.
What do you like the best about being a musician?
Well, my own schedule, my own way of doing things, and plus, really, as good as it sounds, I've never done anything else. I've been pretty lucky. I've never had to do anything else. Played different kind of music. Maybe some of them I didn't really like, but I've always made a living playing music. And when I'm a leader, I can prepare my own shows, my own music, or standards that I want to play a certain way. And it's a golden opportunity. You're on stage and people come and pay to listen to you. I mean, it doesn't get much better in any field, to my knowledge.
You know, you've been the recipient of awards throughout your life, and I don't want to know what your favorite one was, but what award did you get that really surprised you?
In 1989, I got an award from a foundation called the Foundation for the Vocation. And it's a very super prestigious foundation in France that gives award to people under 30 in any field. It can be, it can be mathematics, it can be teachers, it can be, scientists, and it can be artists. And I had applied and was turned down the year before that because they wanted me to come and audition in person. And I said, I can't do that, I'm too busy. I was living in New York. So the following year, I applied and said, well, we'll accept the tape. So I sent the tape, and I got that award, and quite a few other prestigious musicians got it that year, and other very prestigious people. One of them became a close friend he's a winemaker. And I remember, we became close friends because of that. I would have never met him otherwise, and it started my interest in wine. So it's a great eclectic type of award.
So what was the first live jazz show you ever saw that really made you think that's something you want to do with your life?
So when I was 15 years old, and I had started playing jazz, at the local conservatory, people said, oh, you got to go to the jazz festival. And I went, oh my God, yeah, of course, the jazz festival. And I didn't have much money to go there, but somehow I was able to play at a jam session, and here was the organizer of the festival. She was there, and she saw me, and she said, are you coming to the festival tomorrow? I said, well, yeah. She said, oh, okay. And then she pulled out like 10 invitations, and she gave them to me. She said, bring your friends or come anytime you want. I was like, oh, that's fantastic. And so I went there, and I remember that night I heard Count Basie, which I had listened to on records, but of course when you hear Count Basie live on stage, and with my pass I was able to be with the photographers, which means I was able to be literally at the foot of the stage, and it was absolutely fantastic. And I went there every night, and after a week the Thad Jones Mel Lewis band came in, and I can clearly think that night I heard 2 hours of Count Basie followed by 2 hours of Thad Jones Mel Lewis. And I knew I was done in. There was no way I would do anything else but music for the rest of my life, because that was just too much fun.
Wow. So, when we get to the end of this COVID-19 and we do go in and start playing music full on, when the musicians are playing and the crowds come back, what do you hope we realize about this time away from jazz?
That's a good one. I hope that the music and the musicians will be taken a little more seriously, and there'll be a little less petty behavior, especially from the authorities and the government, as to whether we're worth it, because this has been really difficult for people not to be able to go out, and going out means often listening to music live. And listening to music live costs a lot of money for anybody. You got to pay, 5-6 musicians on stage, and the clubs are rarely big enough, more than 80, 100 people. It's very difficult. And over in France, there is a policy of helping out a little bit, but not that much. And in America, there is almost no policy of helping out. And I hope that people will remember that we are an integral part of the fabric of everyday's life. Culture is an integral part of the fabric. And culture, in jazz, culture is basically the culture of America as far as music. It's something not to be forgotten. And it's probably the best ambassador that America has had for a century. It's that indigenous art form that could only have happened in the U.S.
Absolutely. So why do you love jazz?
Well, I love jazz because it's never the same. And I love playing jazz for that. You never know. You have a vague script in front of you. You know which tunes you're going to play. And it never happens the same way. I mean, I have played classical music quite a bit, so I know what I'm talking about. And it is not the same than playing jazz. And jazz has this possibility of being of different forms. And you can never really predict what's going to happen. And some nights going to be exhilarating, and you're not going to be able to go to sleep after a gig. I often can't sleep for several hours, after I finish my gig because it's so much fun.
What are you going to like the best about getting back on stage? What's going to be one of the first things that's just going to be mind-blowing when you actually get to play again?
Well, actually, it's going to be seeing my friends again, seeing all my friends on stage with whom I play. That's going to be fun.
Yeah.
And then, I miss them. I haven't seen them. Basically right now in Paris, you have to wear a mask if you go to the subway, and a lot of people are still very leery of catching the disease. So we haven't seen each other for quite a bit. And then it's going to be to rekindle with the feeling of making music with your good friends, and also with the public who often jazz fans come almost every week and listen to us, and so that's something I'm looking forward. The contact with my friends on stage and with the public, which is I've been missing because 3 months. It never happened in my life, of course.
So everyone has a perception of you, your family, your friends, your fans, but you're the one that's living your life. And you know yourself. Who do you think you are?
I try to work pretty seriously at what I'm doing. And sometimes I'm more successful than others. Right now I'm close to 60. So it can't be the same that when I first started 45 years ago. I think I work hard, and I have been able to come up with good records, and I have fans all over the world. I think I try to be honest with what I can do, the music I present. I've never thought that I would make much money with it, but I was able to sustain myself, so it's good. And I try to convey an impression of musical honesty in my playing. I don't try to impress people with my technique, and I try to give as unbiased a vision of myself that is possible.
Wonderful. Well, hey, man, thank you for reaching out again. Thank you for taking some time to talk with me here at Neon Jazz. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview. We give you a bit of insight into the finest players in New York, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. Thanks to Frank for his time, music, and story. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit Neon Jazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.